So Betty and I just got back from 1 week in Alaska. We were at Glacier Bay National Park, in the park and around, on a small cruise ship. We went on an adventure cruise. And to be honest with you, I had no idea what an adventure cruise was until I took this trip. We went with a group called Uncruise, and Uncruise specializes in small boats, and they want to get you off that boat and out into nature, and that's what we did. So I thought in this video what I would do is share some of the activities that we did and get you into those places and tell you some of the things that we really liked and maybe some of the things we didn't like so much. So that if you're thinking about going to Alaska, if you're thinking about doing a cruise, you can determine if an adventure cruise is right for you. Let's get started with the place where I got this cool shirt. A little bit about where we're embarking from. This is Sitka, and I'm down here with all the boats, as you can see. And it's quite small and quite beautiful. We came in the day before. They recommend you do that because if you miss your flight or something bad happens, you might miss the cruise. And this is kind of a spendy thing, so you don't want to miss the cruise. I'm guessing that if you're flying in to do this cruise, you're coming from somewhere and you're going to end up in Seattle, because there was a short flight from Seattle here to Sitka that got us here. And Sitka is a small place, really. It's easy to get around, eminently walkable. And I'm down here with the fishing boats on the pier, and it's really picturesque and beautiful. Really nice thing about being on a smaller ship like us up here in Alaska, where there are lots of inlets and bays and nooks and crannies, we're able to get into these remote kind of areas where we are, for all intensive purposes, alone. And that's really nice, especially when you're in the water in a kayak. You get the feeling that there aren't people around, because there aren't. But if adventure is your thing, then you probably want to be on a ship like this that is a little bit smaller, a little bit more nimble, and that is set up to get you off the ship and into the natural surroundings, which here in Alaska are quite frankly stunning. Early on the cruise, I think we were both concerned that with only 3 activities, the kayaking, the skiff tour, and the bushwhack, that those would kind of get old and redundant. And surprisingly, they haven't. It's like they take us to these different bays, and every time we get in the water or go for a skiff tour or bushwhack, it's a completely different experience. New things happen that make it memorable and really super enjoyable.
That is a bear print. I got some size 12s on, and I got no problem fitting in there, so I hope I don't run into that fella.
Hey! Hi, Mom. Wish you were here. Ow, ow, ow!
The kayak trips are 2-person kayaks. They have rudders. They're incredibly stable. This boat has what's called an easy dock, which allows you to kind of get into the kayaks on this dock that's right in the water, essentially, the back end of it, and they push you into the water. And when you land, they pull you back up. Paul and I just saw seals.
I think harbor seals.
Saw a couple of harbor seals, and then Paul saw some kelp, and he thought that was a harbor seal.
Yeah, you don't see that.
So that happens, just so you know. What's surprising about the kayaks is how stable they are. It's incredibly safe, and it's really easy. It feels really easy to paddle along. And Betty and I were able to see really some incredible sights. We came across this school of salmon that was just absolutely going bananas, jumping out of the water. And we just sat there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, watching this all around us. So I am about to venture off into the rain on what's called a skiff for a ride around this bay. And I think the only reason I'm doing it, buy the ticket, take the ride. So that's what I'm gonna do. So the skiff tours, depending on the weather, can get pretty rough. I kind of like that type of thing, and the people seem mostly to like that, but if rough seas and getting wet is not your thing, then you probably want to stay out of that skiff. It rains a lot in Alaska, and I think that Betty and I were expecting maybe a little bit more sunshine than we got, but it's a rainforest. It gets over 200 inches of rain a year, and the rain gear and rain pants and the rubber boots, all of that stuff that we brought, well, let me tell you, it has come in handy. In this room, at times, it looks like a freaking laundromat with our clothes hanging and drying out. But overall, we have been dry, we have been warm, and we've been able to kind of deal with the rain with a smile on our face. But if you're expecting sun every day and cruising and a warm kind of classic cruise experience, don't come to Alaska. You're not going to get that.
The first part is always the hardest, is bushwhack.
This is freaking hilarious. We are on a bushwhack, which literally is just what it sounds like. You just don't want to get whacked by the bushes. It is a skiff ride across the water to a point that the guide picks, and now what we're doing is we're picking our way through the forest. There are no trails, and we're literally just exploring the forest. It is incredibly verdant and green and beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. Take your time. Once we get up here, I promise it'll be worth it.
I would say if there's one thing that I don't like, it's the fact that I'm on a cruise and there are certain things that I have to do at certain times because that's the nature of being on a cruise. You know, at 10 o'clock, you're in the skiff. At noon, you are eating your lunch. At 6:30, everyone is having dinner. And in the evening, there is some type of nature talk. There isn't a lot of kind of opportunities to be unsupervised and to go off script. But if I'm going to be in this environment doing this type of thing, this cruise gets 2 thumbs up. So when you're on a ship like this, a 232-foot ship, ships make noise, things happen, anchors drop, pumps run. If you're kind of expecting it to be quiet and peaceful on board, it's not that on this ship. We have an outdoor cabin where when we walk out of our door, we are looking at the ocean, and on a walkway, people walk by. They are working on things. There are times when, you know, you hear a slamming door and it might wake you from your afternoon nap. For me, the thing that I could have never predicted about being on a cruise like this is how many quiet moments in nature that I've actually had. For me, to be in Alaska, to be in this natural environment, and to have these moments, they're kind of priceless. And I would do this trip again if I could have the same types of experiences over and over like I've had on this trip.